Welcome back to my YouTube channel. When Emma heard the knock at the door, she wasn't prepared for the invasion that followed. Her husband's sister Mia, 7 months pregnant and twice as entitled, waltzed in with her husband and 3 overpacked suitcases. "We'll be staying here," Mia announced, as if she owned the deed to the house. Emma looked to her husband, expecting him to defend their space, their marriage. Instead, he glanced at her and said flatly, "Take the guest room, or move out." For a moment, time stopped. Mia smirked. "Honestly, it's great if you're gone by the weekend." No hesitation. No apology. No shame. Emma's heart sank, not because she was losing her bedroom, but because in that moment, she realized she had already lost her husband. When Emma opened the door, the last faces she expected to see were Mia's and her husband trailing behind like luggage carriers. Mia didn't even wait for an invitation. She strolled in, one hand on her swollen belly, the other dragging a designer suitcase. Ugh. "Finally," she sighed dramatically as if Emma had kept her waiting. Pregnant women shouldn't be forced to stand. Emma blinked. Forced? Her husband stepped in behind, avoiding Emma's eyes. "They need a place to stay," he said, and before she could respond, before she could ask how long, why here, why now, he added the words that would burn into her bones. "Take the guest room. Or move out," just like that, as if he were asking her to hand over a remote control, as if she were a disposable extra in her own life. Emma felt the air leave her lungs. She looked at him, searching his face for some sign of decency, some flicker of regret. There was none. Mia grinned, brushing past Emma like she was furniture. "Honestly," she said over her shoulder, "it's even better if you're gone by the weekend. Less awkward energy." Awkward energy. That's what they were calling it now. Marital betrayal served with a smile. Emma stood frozen for a moment, her fingers still curled around the doorknob. She could argue. She could defend herself. She could scream about respect, boundaries, loyalty, but instead, she laughed. A quiet, eerie little laugh. Not because it was funny, but because the absurdity of it was so loud that silence wasn't enough to contain it. She didn't respond to Mia. She didn't look back at her husband. She just walked to her room, their room, but not for long. She pulled out 2 suitcases, laid them open on the bed, and began packing with steady hands. Her heart was shaking, but her mind was clear. Clothes, documents, jewelry, dignity. Every folded shirt was a decision. Every zip of her suitcase was a boundary being sealed shut. She could hear them laughing in the living room. Opening her fridge, settling onto her couch, they thought they had won something. They had no idea. She had just granted them exactly what they asked for. Emma didn't slam the door on her way out. She didn't give them the satisfaction of drama. She simply picked up her bags, rolled them past the living room, and walked straight to the front door. Mia barely glanced up from the couch. "Oh, already? Good. Take your time settling somewhere else. Pregnancy stress, you know. We need peace." Her husband didn't say a word. He stared at the TV, pretending to be invested in a commercial about dish soap. Coward. Emma paused at the doorway, not because she was uncertain, but because she wanted to remember this moment. The moment she stopped begging to be chosen, then she stepped out. Closed the door softly behind her. Not a sound. The silence was louder than any slammed door could ever be. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky was streaked with gold and bruised purple. Like it, too, couldn't decide if the day had been beautiful or cruel. She stood there for a moment, bags in hand, breathing in the evening air. She didn't cry. She didn't break. She called one person, her friend Lena. "Hey," she said simply. "You left, didn't you?" Lena replied without question, her voice full of a warmth Emma didn't know she needed. "I did. Good. My guest room's already made. I'll order dinner. You like spicy or cheesy tonight?" "Both," Emma whispered, a laugh breaking free. By the time she reached Lena's apartment, her bags were in the hallway and the smell of melted cheese and chili flakes greeted her like an embrace. She showered, changed into soft pajamas, and sat on Lena's couch with a bowl of pasta in her lap. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe, not because someone protected her, but because she had finally protected herself. She turned off her phone. No calls, no messages. No explanations. Let them wonder. Let them sit in that house thinking they had pushed her out, because they hadn't pushed her. She had walked away on her own terms. And that difference? That quiet, powerful difference? It was about to change everything. The next morning, Emma woke to sunlight streaming through soft curtains instead of the harsh glare of resentment. Lena had already left for work but had taped a sticky note to the coffee machine. "Creamer's in the fridge. And don't even think about going back there without a lawyer and mascara." Emma smiled as she stirred her coffee. It was strange, peace was such a quiet sound. No passive-aggressive footsteps. No slamming cabinets. No walking on eggshells in her own home. She sat at the kitchen island, opened her laptop, and stared at her bank accounts. She had been practical all her life. Every bonus she got, saved, every tax refund, invested. Meanwhile, her husband spent freely, confident that his name on their joint account meant endless security. Except, it wasn't their money, it was hers. Her name sat alone on the biggest savings account. She transferred half of their shared funds into it, legally since she earned the bulk of it. Then she froze the remaining balance, one click, done. Next, she called the landlord. The rental agreement had always been under her name, something she'd insisted on back when she believed in just in case. "Mr. Patel," she said calmly, "I won't be living there any longer. And I'm revoking access for the current occupants. They are not on the lease." "Oh dear," he replied. "I'll notify security." "Should I change the locks?" "Yes," she said. "Today." Another click. Done. She didn't write a warning. She didn't send a message. She didn't owe them the courtesy. By noon, she received a flurry of calls. Unknown numbers. Then finally, her husband. She didn't answer. He tried again. She sent it to voicemail. Then a text came through. "Did you do something to the account?" She smiled, took another sip of coffee, and typed back one word. "Yes." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Emma, we need to talk." She locked her phone and placed it face down on the counter. It was his turn to feel small, his turn to scramble, his turn to wonder what she was thinking, because for the first time in years, she wasn't predictable, she was untouchable. By late afternoon, the silence she'd gifted them began to rot. Her phone buzzed again, this time not with irritation, but with desperation. First came a call from her husband's mother. Emma let it ring. Then came another. Then a message. "Emma, sweetheart. I don't know what's happening, but something is wrong here. Can you please call me?" She set the phone aside. Made herself lunch. It buzzed again. This time, a frantic voice memo from Mia. The audio started with Mia trying to sound composed. "Emma, hey, I think there's some kind of mistake. We can't access Netflix and the Wi-Fi is asking for a new password." Then came a sharp thud like she'd put the phone down to argue with someone. Muffled shouting followed. "I told you she did this on purpose. She's spiteful." Emma smirked. Another message followed almost instantly, this time from her husband. "Why is the bank account locked? I was at the store. My card got declined." Emma didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another voice note came through. His tone no longer annoyed but rattled. "Emma, this isn't funny. There are bills to pay. We need to figure this out. Funny how that word suddenly mattered now. At 6 p.m., she got a final message. Not from her husband. Not from Mia, from her landlord. Just confirming. I changed the locks. They showed up while I was there and caused a scene. I called security. The husband demanded to be let in. I informed him legally, I cannot allow it. He threatened lawyers. I told him your name is the only one on the lease. For a moment, Emma imagined it. Her husband standing outside her door, rattling her handle, realizing he wasn't just missing access to a house. He'd been removed from her life. No warning. No dramatic speech. No revenge monologue, just absence. Let him feel how cold it is on the outside. Let him realize who really held the keys all along. Emma was brushing her hair that night when her phone rang again. She almost ignored it, until she saw the caller ID, his mother. This time, she answered. Before she could even speak, she heard frantic breathing on the other end, voices clashing in the background. It sounded like chaos. "Emma?" Her mother-in-law gasped. Please come talk to them." They're losing their minds. Emma stayed quiet, letting the silence press. Then she heard it, her husband's voice raw and cracking. She's lying, Mom. Please tell me she's lying. There was a crash in the background. Something slammed. Mia's voice shrieked over his. I never said it was his. You're twisting things. You told me I was the father. I said you could be. The argument spiraled, layered with accusations she could barely untangle. Voices overlapped like a storm. His mother tried to calm them, but her voice was drowned out by panic. You used me. You were lonely. You promised me security. I promised you a couch. Emma listened, unmoving. Her reflection in the mirror stared back, calm, composed, untouched by the fire she had walked away from. Her mother-in-law's voice broke through again. Emma. Please, come talk to them. They're saying horrible things. I don't know what to believe. Just tell me this isn't true. Emma finally spoke, her voice steady as glass. What isn't true? A beat of silence. Then softly the mother-in-law whispered, Is it true? That the baby isn't his? Emma didn't answer. She didn't need to. The screaming in the background grew louder. Someone cried. Someone cursed. Someone begged. Emma simply ended the call and placed the phone face down on the table, for the first time ever. They were asking her for clarity, and she had never been clearer in her life. Emma didn't rush to involve herself in their chaos. She didn't rush to clarify rumors or rescue reputations. She had spent years being the mediator, the peacemaker, the one who held broken things together, even when those broken things were people who didn't value her. Not anymore. She didn't answer her husband's final message. Can we talk? Please? She didn't open Mia's long paragraph of half apologies, half excuses. She didn't respond to his mother's plea for a family meeting because she finally understood something life-changing. Not every fire needs you as the firefighter. Some fires are lessons. A week later, her lawyer finalized the separation documents. She received full financial rights to the house and joint assets. He, meanwhile, was living with his best friend on a sagging couch, drowning in betrayal that wasn't hers to fix. The world had tilted. He was now the one displaced. He was now the one begging to be chosen. Emma walked through her new apartment, quiet, sunlit, hers, and ran her fingers across the fresh key in her hand. No noise, no manipulation, no walking on eggshells for people who would never walk gently around her heart. She brewed a cup of tea, sat on her balcony, and watched the city hum. Below, she didn't feel bitter. She didn't feel triumphant. She just felt right. Sometimes, the loudest revenge isn't rage, it's rebuilding. Not for them to see, but for yourself to live. And Emma? She was just getting started.